I have to admit, after spending almost 2 years digging through data, trying to find some credible sources on for instance, an increase in cancer deaths, an increase in cardiovascular disease, an increase in suicide, an increase in developmental problems with children. I read all of this anecdotal evidence that like you can't actually learn how to speak unless you can see someone speaking to you, which seems sort of obvious when you say it out loud. But I'm sort of suspicious of the data. I'm probably like a lot of Americans right now, where I'm not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but I'm immediately skeptical of everything now that so-called public health officials say, because I'm like, is this propaganda? Are you covering up for past harms? What's your agenda here? And it's tremendously damaging to belief in medical innovation, for instance.
Right.
Like pharmaceutical companies have taken a drubbing,
Sure.
and frankly, they earned it.
That's absolutely the case. So it may be that scientific credibility is one of the biggest casualties of this thing. And we've seen this play out already for the past 2 years. You have people like Fauci that go on national TV and they lie to you. And then a month later, when the lie is exposed, they don't say, oh, I'm sorry, oh, I was wrong. They double down and defend it. So, well, I was lying to you for your own good.
Yeah.
And Fauci did this on the masks. He did this again on herd immunity, on vaccination rates. There's just dozens of examples of this. At some point, scientific credibility takes a hit, and it takes a hit in a substantial way. What does this mean going forward? It means that people that are actually trying to do good research in those areas are up against an obstacle of simply getting the public to listen to them. And that's going to have downsides for public health officials for decades to come, because everyone realizes, hey, this was the instance where they cried wolf too many times. Or they realize even worse, this is the instance where someone like Fauci, who is trying to plead his case from a trusted public official's perch, is actually behind the scenes manipulating data, manipulating the media, engaged in these smear campaigns against anyone that would dissent or question his advice. Really engaged in playing politics. So it's kind of pulled off the covers, pulled the curtain back on how these people really operate in their worst instincts. And now that the public has seen that, you're never going to easily rebuild that trust. It's going to be many years or decades to even get back to the point that we were in, say, January 2020.
Yeah. And the other one that I sort of love the irony, even though it's tragic in practice. And I should preface this by saying I don't think either of us has been at all partisan during this whole thing. We've been, I think a later episode we were super tough on Trump.
Absolutely.
For embracing Faucism and lockdowns. And he platformed this guy because he loved the ratings.
Right.
And he was competing with Andrew Cuomo, who was getting better ratings than he was. That said, the ultimate irony in this is the progressive left's embrace of a kind of classism that has made the rich richer.
Yeah.
And the laptop class has remained locked down, and they absolutely expect the Uber guy to show up with their food every night.
Yeah, wearing a mask.
And now it turns out that they demand that truck drivers continue to work as they have throughout the pandemic. Yeah. And if they disobey, we're gonna bring them to heel. So it strips bare this maybe it was a naive notion that the progressive left actually cares about the working class, because they have nothing but disdain for them now.
Yeah.